Left in Kentucky, the podcast of Indivisible, Northern Kentucky. Wow. Good. Welcome back.
There's a spring in our step now, finally, right?
Beware the Ides of March.
I know. That's today. Oh, that's today.
Yeah. So,
maybe I'll just hide in the house like I normally do.
There you go.
That'll save me.
Remember, it's not about the stabbing, it's about doing things together.
It's right. Being involved. That's what we need to all be involved.
Oh, good times.
Oh, we're heading there, aren't we? I have some hope today.
I do. I'm with you. I've got some hope and waiting for it to be dashed upon the rocks like it usually is.
Yep.
So, but I don't know. I'm feeling better about 2021. It looks like we're finally making headway in the pandemic, and things are getting better there.
Yes.
And
that is good to see.
Yeah.
Lots of people I know getting vaccinated and feeling they can relax a little bit. I think a lot of people have been living a little panicked for the last year, so getting those vaccines helps with that, I think. So.
Yeah, I have to say my mom, who's almost 80, she just got vaccinated, got both her vaccines, her shots, and a couple of weeks ago. And I've never seen somebody so happy to go to an Aldi in my life.
It's true. And I'm not one to go to stores or shop or anything, so I don't really miss that, but I miss being able to do that. It's like I can choose to say no, which I usually will, but having the option, starting to creep into my psyche a little bit.
Yeah, you would have thought she was going to Disney World. I swear, it was great. But we took it very seriously, and we were very concerned given her age and everything. So it's been a year since she stepped foot in any kind of a store at all.
I believe it. Hey, and Aldi's got some good deals. Let me just say.
That's true.
So it's easy to get excited.
This is an unpaid advertisement. They do not give us any money. So this is unsolicited.
Yeah, we don't get any money.
Yeah. We do this for the love of it. And
right.
And that's a good thing. So anyway, let's see. What do we got going on?
State
legislature.
Yeah, it's finally, come grinding to a halt here soon. Thank goodness,
It'll all
for
be
it to be
soon.
over. Yeah. And
so now that we talked about being positive and hopeful, now we're going to throw that upon the rocks.
Yeah. We're going to step in the field and probably not avoid that big pile on the horizon.
Yeah. So what you got for us this week in the way of cow patties?
Well, I guess we're going to do a good cop, bad cop. This week where I take all the patties upon myself to walk through, which that's okay.
Work on a farm.
I don't mind.
You do work on a farm. So.
I live on a farm.
Yeah, you're used to the patty
I try to
harvest.
avoid work if I can. I'm better at telling people what the work is. But speaking of people that should be doing what we want, let's talk about our legislators in Frankfurt. Yep, they deserve that patty, that big pile of patty. And I decided not to call out any individual legislator because they're number one, we don't have all that kind of time.
I was gonna say the show's only like an hour or so.
But they're kind of all just propping each other up over this stuff. And so the first thing I'd like to call attention to is the First Amendment to our Constitution, the one about speech. They decided they wanted to go against that. Okay. And make it a crime to insult a police officer. Now, is it a good idea to insult a police officer? No. Is it rude sometimes? Yes. Should it be against the law? Come on, people. I mean, that's just ridiculous on its face. So
It is our constitutional right to be rude.
it is. And yes, you have to live with the consequences of it, but it shouldn't be a criminal offense. We have to agree on this, right?
Yeah.
So, just on the face of it, you can see, okay, this is unconstitutional. So the ACLU is going to bring this up. But, so why are we wasting the time of everyone doing this kind of ridiculous thing? This is what our legislature is spending their time on.
It's unheard of our legislature wasting time on do nothing bills. They've never done that before. This is the first time they have ever wasted time by passing BS legislation.
That's Senate Bill 211, by the way. So we'll see what happens. If it passes, it's going to be shot down. So again, waste of time. Then the other bill that really gets my hackles and makes me feel like I'm walking through a big steaming pile of crap is House Bill 568. Now, this bill gives our taxpayer money to private schools. That's just wrong. Again, we're supposed to separate church and state.
And it's really tricky the way they've done it too, because it's only certain counties that it targets.
Right. It's sneaky. They're sliding it in.
It's Jefferson and is it Jefferson, Fayette, and Kenton County?
Yes, Kenton County.
And I'm sure that's because our good friend Buddy Wheatley spoke out against it, and they decided to include Kenton County in there. So that was nice of them.
I mean, it's all about politics with them. They don't really care about the people. We got to spread the word, folks. Got to let people know that they're supposed to work for us.
Yeah, it's. I think those are well-deserved cow patties, and I just they wait until the last minute. They and again that the one about the insulting police officers. That was one of those bills that was originally something else as a placeholder. They stripped out all the language and stuck in language for this, like they did with the sewer bill several sessions ago.
Yeah. I mean, we don't tolerate this stuff in middle school. We don't let the kids cheat like this. We shouldn't tolerate it from our legislators.
Absolutely not. Well, that was well deserved. And
good thing the sun is shining and the breeze is blowing through the field. So
sun's not shining here.
We're not even that far away from each other. You're too close to the river, I guess.
I guess so. So that's our bad cop. So I get to be the good cop this week.
You get to be the good one.
And I'm giving out a Bullhorn Award to the Arena Academy. So I've been attending Arena Academy since Friday, starting this past Friday. And for people who aren't familiar with Arena, it is they train and provide support for candidates and campaign staff for progressives. It's a really good program. They have some outstanding folks working for them, and they are training people in everything from the stuff you think of, like campaign management and communications, to all the way to digital, which is like Facebook, stuff like that, data, which is digging into voter files and looking for trends and mining data, which is the track that I'm in. Just really, really outstanding group of people, and I can't say enough good things about them.
Oh, I hope we get some good progressive candidates. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, and it's nice because I mean, they're supporting candidates and they're developing candidates, but they're also developing team members to work on those campaigns. And I think that's one of the things that, we've talked about in the past.
Sure.
Is it's very hard for progressive candidates to find well-trained staff to work on their campaigns. The campaigns tend to be starved for qualified, diverse staff. And so having groups like Arena and they're working for this particular Arena Academy. They partnered with Hood to the Holler, from the Hood to the Holler, Charles Booker's organization.
Mm-hmm.
And they're the ones that actually sponsored me this time from the Hood to the Holler. So also I'd like to give a shout out to Hood to the Holler and Charles. For this. So if you want to check them out, it's arena.run instead of .com. It's arena.run. Highly recommend them. We've had some great presentations. One of them that was really outstanding on diversity and inclusion was by Dr. Kira Banks. And Dr. Banks is a psychologist. She specializes in unconscious bias. She is at the St. Louis University. She was part of the Ferguson Commission, so in Ferguson, Missouri. So amazing speaker, really interesting insights into diversity and unconscious bias. So definitely check it out. Check out arena.run. And if you're looking for some progressive training, I cannot recommend them highly enough.
Yep. Get involved, people. That's one way you can get involved. Work on a campaign.
Joining us now on Left in Kentucky is the executive director of the Kentucky Democratic Party, Mary Nishimuta. Welcome, Mary.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Hi, Mary. It's good to see you.
Great to be here. Thank you all so much for having me.
Great. So as we've mentioned to everybody, the Kentucky Democratic Party is getting ready for their reorg, which normally happens every 4 years. We've had a COVID delayed 4th year into the 5th year. But that's starting this week. And so we wanted to have you on, kind of talk about it. And so why don't you kind of go over how the reorg happens and kind of give us an overview.
Yeah, absolutely. Would be happy to. I think before I talk about the process, it's really helpful for people to understand the overall structure of the party, because I know when I was first getting involved, that was really confusing in all the different levels. And I still get a lot of questions, even from people who have been involved for a couple of years about, what's the difference between this convention or that convention and what happens at each. So I'll start with that. I always think of it kind of like a wedding cake, but really turned upside down. So at the biggest tier level, you have the precinct committees, and we get a lot of questions around what's a precinct, and especially for new voters where we had voting centers and, you didn't go to your normal polling location this past election cycle. The concept of precinct is kind of an old one, but a precinct is the lowest unit of your voting district. So it's the smallest geographic area as we're talking about voting districts. So we start with precinct conventions, which there are over 3,000 precincts in the state of Kentucky, which
Wow.
Is mind-boggling to me. Yeah.
I thought we have a lot of counties. That's crazy.
We have a lot of precincts too. Yep. So in each of those precincts, we have the opportunity to elect a precinct committee that consists of a man, a woman, and a youth. And a youth in all of our definitions is defined as 35 years of age or younger at the time of voting. So, so for folks, I think that's fairly generous. But until the point that I actually aged out, then I'm like, well, actually, 35 is young.
Right.
so we have precinct committees that serve in all of the counties all across Kentucky. And then we have county committees. And so the precinct committees are like the people on the ground, the ones who are having conversations with neighbors about getting involved, or maybe, you know your area the best. And so when it comes to get out the vote, you are a willing and ready volunteer, or who else in your neighborhood can go help you knock doors, etc. So that to me is probably the most important level, because that's actually how we win elections, is by talking to voters. And that's those are the boots on the ground that make that possible. And then at the county level, we have county committees that range anywhere from 10 people to 20 people. Some are larger. There's a special process if you want a larger committee, but that committee really helps organize the county party. And so recruiting local candidates, supporting local candidates, fundraising, for the support of those candidates, or for party operations, all of these things are really managed by the county party on your elections and off your elections, voter registration drives, other things like that really help build the Democratic Party within your county. And then the next level from the county level is the state level, and it's the State Central Executive Committee.
Before we move on to the state level, so as there are the county executive committees, but then there's also special situations like in Louisville and Lexington, right?
Yeah, so as we start to talk about like how people get elected to your county executive committee, that's where it changes between Jefferson and Fayette County, which have legislative district conventions, and then all other 118 counties that go through county conventions.
Okay.
But because Jefferson and Fayette are so large, we don't have a county convention there. We actually split it up into legislative district conventions, which is defined by your House district. I always think like it's kind of a silly word, legislative district, because that could be your Senate or House, but
right.
That's the nomenclature that we use. But that's defined by your House district. And then the LD chairs, we always shorten legislative district to LD. Those chairs that get elected through those conventions automatically make up the county executive committee. And then there's another process after that, that Jefferson and Fayette counties, they're the only counties that go through this because of their size. They go through a process of electing 18 additional members, at-large members, to help balance out on a number of fronts their county executive committee.
Okay, so, great. Yeah. So got it. Thanks.
Excellent. Okay, so then you get to so that's the county structure, and I'll go through kind of the conventions and how people get elected in just a minute. And then at the state level, there are State Central Executive Committee, or I normally just shorten that to State Central, or you might hear the acronym SCEC. All of that is State Central. And a lot of people are like, well, that is, the state committee, like they do all of the operations of the party. The party, just like any nonprofit, is really set up where you have a board of directors, and that board of directors is the State Central Executive Committee, and then you have a full-time staff. So, and then the full-time staff is responsible for, and we have our chair, Chair Coleman Elridge, and the staff is responsible for executing the operational and tactical kind of day-to-day of the state party. So think of State Central Executive Committee as that board of directors that you're electing.
Gotcha.
Now, on that board, we have representation from each of our congressional districts. So from all 6, you have 2 men, 2 women, and a youth member, again, 35 or younger, that get elected up to State Central. And then you also have 9 at-large members that get elected up to State Central. There are other positions on State Central that are filled outside of the reorganization process, but those are the 2 types of positions that are filled. So you either can represent your congressional district, or you can have an at-large position kind of representing the entire Commonwealth.
Okay,
so any questions about the structure before I kind of go into like how people get elected at each of those levels?
No, I think that's really helpful the way you laid it out. Definitely.
Cool. Excellent. Well, let me rewind back then to talk about that bottom level of our wedding cake, that biggest tier, the precinct convention. And that is what is starting tomorrow. So we have because we're still in COVID, you know, some of us have been vaccinated, some of us have not been vaccinated. So we've had to structure this entire process to allow for remote participation. So that was kind of one of our fundamental things was, you know, everybody has to be able to safely participate in this process. The other thing was that we wanted to make sure that everybody could participate regardless of your skill level in technology or your access to the internet, et cetera. So we have a couple of different options for people who, you know, who can't or who are unfamiliar with like filling out a web form, for example. So, but going back to the precinct conventions tomorrow on Monday, March 15th, what we'll do is open up a form where anybody who wants to participate either as a voter, so if you just want to vote in your precinct convention, but not actually nominate yourself or nominate somebody else, you need to fill out this participation form. If you want to nominate yourself, which is the most common thing, so don't feel shy about self-nominating. I want to like say that loud and clear. Like if you are interested in getting involved, we love you, nominate yourself. I am a big believer in just stepping up and not waiting for somebody to tap you on the shoulder because, you know, we just need to do it. So, yep. So step up, get involved. And so then self-nominations are open on that same form. And then the third option is if you know somebody in your precinct, and that's really important, is that because this is your precinct convention, you can only nominate or vote for people in your precinct. So if you know somebody, you know, maybe a next door neighbor, whomever lives in your precinct that you nominate, who you think would be fantastic to get involved with the party and they agree to, and they're like, yep, that sounds wonderful, and you want to nominate them, you can do that on the same form as well. So, but I do want to stress, like, even if you just want to vote, let's say that you have a good friend who is running as a precinct committee person and they happen to live in the same precinct as you, it's really important to sign up to vote in the precinct conventions so you can cast your ballot for them. So otherwise you won't be able to if you miss the deadline.
I think that's an important distinction. I don't think, you know, I think it's important, and I really want to emphasize that you know, if you're going to vote, you need to fill out the form. You need to register as a voter in your precinct for the Democratic reorg. Just because you're registered to vote in the regular election, you still have to do this additional step in the Democratic Party reorg.
Yep.
Now, you have to be a registered voter as a Democrat to even do that, right?
Yes. So you have to be a registered Democrat. The latest deadline, let's say that you're an independent and you haven't switched your party over to Democrat, the latest that you have to do that is April 8th. So this participation form opens tomorrow, March 15th. It doesn't close until April 12th. So we're giving people a pretty long time and a pretty wide berth in order to sign up and to encourage others to sign up. But yes, but Roberto, that's completely 100% correct. And I want to make sure that everybody understands that if you self-nominate yourself for the precinct committee, your next step is to talk to friends in your precinct and say, you know, your neighbors, other folks in your area, and say, hey, you know, sign up to vote for me, because if everybody just self-nominates, we're just going to get a whole lot of tied elections out there because everybody's going to vote for themselves. So,
right.
So now, it is an election. Yep.
Now, at the precinct level, is there? I know I've had a lot of people say to me that they've never even heard of this precinct level nomination and voting and stuff. Does there typically, you know, in these precincts, are there typically a lot of people that show up to vote, or?
Well, historically, the answer to that is no. So historically, this has all happened in person. In some counties, you actually show up to your precinct. And so think about, like, if you weren't involved with a party, you're kind of interested, the way if you had a precinct convention at your actual precinct, the way you did that was to show up. And sometimes if you're, you know, if the place that you vote at is a school that might be closed on a weekend, and you show up and you hang out in a parking lot and you hope that somebody else shows up. So that in and of itself is a little bit of an obstacle for people historically, for people who wanted to get involved but maybe on the wings and, you know, didn't know how all of this happened. And so with our One, this is the first time that we are taking nominations prior to, like normally you just show up, people nominate themselves and you vote, and it just happens all within that one period.
Right.
This is the first time that we're actually taking pre-nominations, I call it, for this process to help it, to get the word out, to encourage people to, extend our time that we're asking people to get involved. So, so I'm hoping that our participation this time increases dramatically from prior reorganizations.
I think that's great. I mean, opening it up and giving people more of an opportunity to get involved, I think is going to be, hopefully will encourage a lot more people to get involved. And it won't be that, oh, I'm not available on that Saturday at 10 a.m. to be at my polling place, but you can still get involved this way. What if somebody doesn't have good access to the internet or has trouble using a computer?
No, that's a really great question. So we have a hotline that is set up for people who want to call in their nomination, or they want to call in and say, "Hey, I want to vote." And I am, of course, I did not write that down before I hopped on this podcast. So give me just a second to pull it up. Okay. So if you have a neighbor or a friend who is a little wary of technology or doesn't have access to the internet, this is the toll-free number that they can call starting on Monday. Don't call us today. It'll go to voicemail. But starting tomorrow, you can call 833-468-6835. And we're going to put that all over social media and, of course, on our website. But if you know people that want to get involved that don't have access to those mediums, it is 833-468-6835.
Okay, we'll put that in the information for the podcast as well.
Awesome.
And just we record these podcasts on Sunday. I think most of our regular listeners know that. And we'll be posting this on Tuesday. So by the time you're listening to this, that number will be active. The online form will be active, and you'll be able to use those.
Awesome.
So we'll put that number out there. Okay, great. So we've got people nominated. Either you've nominated yourself or somebody else. And that runs from March 15th through April, what did you say?
12th.
April 12th. So what happens on April 12th?
Well, on April 12th, the nomination form, or the participation form, I like to call it, because you can just sign up to vote and not nominate yourself. But the participation form closes. Prior to that, on April 10th, will be a publicly available virtual precinct convention commencement, I'll call it, where we will have special guests, and we will officially, that's on a Saturday, April 10th at 10 a.m. Eastern. We'll all get together on a big Zoom, talk about what the next steps are. So talk about the balloting process, how you review those, or how, what that will look like, how you turn that in, what the timing of that is, et cetera. So it's not required to go to the big Zoom on April 10th, but we will have some special guests, and I hope everybody can make it. Also, that for people who may not have sent in their nomination form or their participation form up till then, you still have a couple of days after that to kind of get that information in. Nice. So then the nominations and the people who want to participate in this process, all of that ends on April 12th. We collect all of those names, and then we internally need a couple of days to put together their ballots to make sure that everybody who has signed up is a registered Democrat as of April 8th. Of course, we'll be doing that on a rolling basis, but that gives us a little bit of buffer if we get a spike in signups at the very end. And then the ballots will go out. And the ballots are going to be Google Forms, so it's not going to be crazy. And you're going to have your choice of voting for your precinct committee man, precinct committee woman, and precinct committee youth. One thing I do want to highlight is that if you are a youth person, if a youth person sounds kind of weird, but
a youth person,
you are 35
if you're
or
a
younger.
youngin.
The Utes.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're one of the Utes.
If you're one of those Utes, I grew up in the South, so I never heard Utes, but I know what you're talking about. I did watch My Cousin Vinny. So
Nice. Thanks for getting the reference.
Yep,
Yeah.
always. But if you're one of those lucky people, then you can actually sign up for a couple of positions. So you can sign up, like, let's pretend I'm 35 again. So I could sign up as my precinct committee woman, or I could sign up as and I could sign up as my precinct committee youth member. So it's an and there. And we have been getting questions from non-binary people, people who are non-binary. We do have a gender question on the form, on the nomination form. And again, you are eligible for all of the positions. So it's just the roles are defined in our bylaws, committee man, committee woman, committee youth. And that was put in there decades ago when we were trying to encourage involvement from our, our youths in Kentucky, but also ensuring that we had gender parity. And so that we had, a space for women at the table. So, but I know that's a little antiquated right now, but that's how we're kind of getting around that specific requirement. So that is your precinct convention, and then you go through voting, and then there's another round to actually, elect a precinct committee chair that everybody kind of does again later in April. These precinct committee people, so let's say you're elected, you're like, woohoo, off to the races. You are the voters in the next step. So all of a sudden we've taken all of the registered Democrats in Kentucky can participate in these precinct conventions as long as they sign up by April 12th. But the next step, the voters are the people who are our precinct committee people. And so those people go on to elect your county executive committee members. They're also electing the people who will be the voters at the next stage, delegates to the district and then the state convention. And then there's also a credentials committee that, they'll have an election for to fill that particular role. So, but I do want to clarify that while precinct committee people are the only people who can vote in the county conventions, or if you live in Jefferson and Fayette County and the LD conventions, anybody can run for those positions. So let's say that I live, in a pretty blue precinct and, Jane Smith edged me out by 2 votes or whatever it was as precinct committee woman, but I still want to really be active. I still can run for a position on my county executive committee. So just because I didn't make it as a precinct committee person, you are still eligible to run for any of the other positions. You just can't vote for yourself is the only thing. So.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah. And so I want to take a breath here before it, because there's a whole lot of details. Any questions that you or Amy may have?
No, I thought you laid it out pretty clearly. I'm looking forward to it, seeing how many people participate.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
So the precinct committee people, your precinct committee representatives, they're the ones that vote for the county executive committee, but you don't have to be one of those precinct people to be on the executive committee. You can run even if you
run
didn't
for one of those positions. Exactly.
But you still don't get to vote for it.
Yeah, you don't get to vote for yourself if you're not a precinct committee person. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So then going back to your earlier question where it's like, well, Jefferson and Fayette do it differently. And we talked about the LD conventions, and that is absolutely correct. So I'm going to talk about county conventions, which all counties except for Jefferson and Fayette will go through. And there, all the precinct committee people will, and it's very similar to how we'll run the precinct conventions, will be able to nominate people. So again, precinct committee people are the only people who can nominate and vote. So they will nominate people for their county executive committee, for the delegates, and for this credentials committee position. And then we'll process all of those nominations. We'll get, make sure that the people who are nominated agree to run, et cetera. And then we'll develop those ballots that then the precinct committee people will then vote for. Those 3 different positions. So then for all of those counties that go through county conventions, the newly elected county executive committee will then figure out a time to meet, and there's a a time span in which that has to happen, but we're letting all of the newly elected county executive committees kind of figure out where in that time span that works. And then they will elect a county chair and a county vice chair from the newly elected executive committee.
Okay, so chair and vice chair are voted on just by the executive committee within themselves. Got it.
Yep. So again, that's only that's for all of the counties except for Jefferson and Fayette. So if we have listeners from Jefferson and Fayette County, what will happen after the precinct conventions, and let's say you are a precinct committee person, which is awesome, you're going to be the voter in your legislative district convention. And there you will vote for your LD chair or legislative district chair and LD vice chair. And those have to, again, going back to the gender parity rules within the Democratic Party, they have to be of opposite genders. And so if you have a male chair, you have to vote for a female vice chair and then vice versa. So we have a process figured out around how to handle that with our electronic balloting. But again, you will do the nominations for your LD chair and vice chair. Those will close. We will then develop those ballots. You will get that ballot, you'll do the voting, et cetera. And then once you elect your LD chair and vice chair, the LD chairs automatically make up the county executive committee of Jefferson and Fayette counties. And then they go through another process afterwards to elect additional at-large members. And then, and prior to that, they will elect a chair and a vice chair. And in Jefferson and in Fayette County, the chair doesn't have to be from the body. So the chair does not have to be, in other words, doesn't have to be an LD chair. It can be anybody, from their county. The vice chair, however, does have to be from the body. So they do have to be an LD chair. So it's confusing. I know. Yeah.
I can see why they did it that way. I really can, though. It leaves a way for it to be a little bit outside of the whole organization where you can get a little bit of different perspective, I think.
Yeah. Yep. And so, and if you have a really great leader who, is the majority of the body wants that person to help run the organization, they're not locked into having had gone through this process. So, yeah.
Okay. So now we've got all of our county executive committees. We've got all of our chairs and co-chairs.
Yep. And so kind of like in your mind, set aside all of the county executive committees and chairs and vice chairs and all of that, because now they're fully elected and they are off to the races to do whatever they need to do in their counties to start organizing. The other person or the set of people that you elected during those LD conventions or the county conventions are the delegates to the district, the congressional district conventions, and then those same delegates also serve at the state convention. We will have 1,000.
Who elects those?
So the precinct committee people, you're actually going to be in your county convention or your LD convention. You're actually going to be electing 3 roles. One is for your county executive committee, and then one is for these delegates, and then the other is your credentials committee. And then if you go through the LD conventions, then your LD positions, your chair and vice chair, delegates, and then your credentials committee person.
Okay, so your 3 precinct representatives, they're voting on these. They're voting
on these delegates. Exactly.
Okay.
Yep. And so, so they elect those delegates. Those delegates that were elected in your county or your LD conventions will then convene on June 26th for your congressional district conventions. And this will be a huge Zoom. We'll have 1,000 delegates that are elected from all across the state. Usually we're like I think in 2016, it was at the Expo Center in Louisville. It's a big gathering of Democrats, which I'm really kind of bummed about that we're not able to do that in person, because it's a really neat experience to be there with that many other people from all across the state. But so we'll all get together on June 26th in the morning. In the congressional district conventions, you are voting for your state central members to represent your congressional district. So your 2 men, 2 women, and a youth member who will then serve on state central. And then in the in the afternoon, not the evening, but in the afternoon, we will then convene the state convention, and then that's where the 9 at-large members are elected to State Central.
And it's those same delegates from the congressional.
Yeah, it's the same body of people. Yep, it's that 1,000 people
Okay.
that participate in both of them. Yep.
Okay,
So
great.
And just to clarify that, you only vote in your congressional district. So like if I'm a delegate to the, to my congressional district, which I live in CD6, I can't vote for like, CD4 or CD, 5 or
Right.
anybody else. So it's not 1,000 in your congressional district, it's 1,000 overall. And, the split is based on Democratic registration, et cetera, but, and a couple of other things, but that's, but yeah. So
if you
get split up into your congressional district, and then we'll all come together, all 1,000 of us, for the state convention.
So if you want to represent your congressional district as on the state central committee, how do you have to be on a county committee or?
Nope. The only qualification is that you to be elected to any of this or to participate in any of this is that you are a registered Democrat by April 8th. And then we do make sure that in our bylaws, it says that, you have to affirm that you support and that you will continue to support our Democratic nominee for office. And those are the qualifications. So yeah, you don't have to run as a state central executive committee member. You don't have to serve on your county committee. You don't have to even be elected as your precinct committee person. Anybody can run for those positions as long as they meet that base requirement.
So how would somebody go about, if they're interested in serving on the state central committee, how would they go about getting nominated for that?
So the delegates who were elected at the county and the LD convention are the people who would nominate. So if you're interested, and we'll make sure that people, have a way to contact them. And so if you're interested in running, you have to be nominated from those particular delegates.
Okay, so you can't nominate yourself. You have to be nominated by one of the delegates.
Yep, exactly. The only way you would be able to nominate yourself is if you actually are one of those delegates. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. And same thing, whether you're an at-large if you're an at-large member, same thing. That's
Yep. You have to be nominated from the, one of the 1,000 people that are serving as a delegate to the state convention. Yep.
Okay, great. So it's just that simple. In 75
it's
easy steps. In 75 easy steps.
Yeah, it only took us 33 minutes to walk through it, and I felt like I was going too quickly. So I do want to this is a good time though to point out that all of this information is on our website at kydemocrats.org. So KYDEMOCRATS.org. And there's /2021-reorg. But if you just go to our website, I'm actually putting a big link on the front of it today that says for reorg information, press here. And so, so you'll be able to access all of this, because I'm sure, it's a confusing process.
Just need to read it. Some people learn that way. So
yeah, very true.
You have different learning styles. You got auditory and visual, and so it's good to do that. I think there's even a YouTube video out there about it that talks about it.
We do have, so a State Central member, Jeannie Smith, made a video that we put on the website that really focuses on the precinct convention. Yep. And I think we may think about breaking up precinct convention. Here's a 45-second primer on how to get involved and, things like that we can share on social media. So, yeah.
Great. Good. On the local level, you can get in contact with your county executive committee if you know people on your county executive committee, your chair, co-chair, whatever. Any of them should be able to help you with understanding what's going on or point you to the resources you need. Make sure you know those dates. We'll make sure to put these resources on the information for the podcast as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Is there, so let's say you get elected to your state committee, your county executive committee, and you're relatively new to, you're relatively new to the KDP system. Is there any kind of training for new members on county committees?
Yes, so we are developing that training that we'll have after reorganization. So we really wanted to focus on executing a really great reorg process. And then the next focus, and as we move into the July and August timeframe, will be on training our county parties. So historically, we have had something called the County Party Summit, which has been really great to get tools into county party members' hands because we have the option to do virtual. It kind of opens up a lot of that in terms of being able to, make sure our chairs understand the Robert's Rules of Order and, kind of the simple stuff like treasurers understand like how to file the reports with KREF, all that fun stuff that, is really important in just the day-to-day operations of a county party, but also, best tips on fundraising as a county party, digital strategies, other things like that have been training topics in the past that we've had that I think would be really good for us to do again. So both at the county level and then at the state, for our state board, for the State Central Executive Committee, we're also planning a training after we get through reorganization.
Okay, that's good, because I've had several people, express to me that they've never been involved with the Democratic Party, and while they think they'd like to be on the executive committee, they're not quite sure what they would even do or how they would do it, what they're supposed to do. So I think the idea that there is this training that you would get once you're elected to the committee, I think that will put a lot of people's fears at ease and might make them a little more willing to, hey, I'll give it a shot. I'll try for my executive committee.
I can tell you that the committees are going to welcome you with open arms. We want people participating and we want people to get involved. So please don't feel intimidated about going for it, because we want you there. We want you to be a part of our organization.
Yeah, do you know
part of the party?
Does that training include any kind of, is there like diversity training or inclusivity training or anything like that?
That is such a great question. We have not historically done that, but we know that is a really big need for us as we, as we open up our doors and are more inclusive, through this process. And so we are building that into our trainings. Yeah.
Okay, great, good. So yeah, there's plenty of resources out there, and building the party, the key is getting involved and being a part of it. I know on my personal level, as I started getting more involved with the party, I was very much welcomed into it and helped out, and I found people very willing to listen, and I still find people very willing to listen. When I first got involved, Mary and I had several conversations, and several other people. So I strongly encourage you, get involved with your party, and even if you don't get, let's say you're just still nervous and you don't think you want to be elected to a position on your county executive committee, that's too intimidating. There are still committees that you can serve on as part of your county Democratic Party without being on an elected position.
Yes.
So don't feel that you have to run and be and have that elected title to get involved. There's plenty of activities, and the county parties love to have Democratic members who are just willing to show up and do something. You like parades. Okay, we want you to show up and help us with parades. Or,
yes.
you love the county fair. Okay, you can come help us man the booth for the county fair. We're always looking for people to, and maybe we'll actually have county fairs this year. It's sounding maybe. What are we thinking?
Maybe.
Oh, I would love, yeah. Love it
hope.
if we have county fairs again. So it's just, it's one of those things where I see hope, but gosh, it's been a long haul and I'm afraid
to
get my hopes up too much. But I have full faith in our governor and our president to be able to, stay true to, I mean, they're ahead of their goals. So
it makes you feel better knowing those guys are in charge.
Yep.
Definitely appreciate that. All right. Is there anything we've forgotten to cover about the reorg? Oh, I know there was another question. So since we're a year late, and it's normally 4 years, it's normally the reorg is done on presidential years. So is the next reorg going to be on the next presidential year, which now would be in 3 years, or is it going to be 4 years and be off cycle? Or do we know yet?
That's a really great question. So the way that our bylaws are written currently, it will happen during the next presidential cycle. So if we do not change our bylaws, then the next reorganization will be 2024, and everybody will serve a 3-year term. That being said, there's a lot of people who are interested in adjusting our bylaws, and there are several different ideas about how to do this most effectively. And so that may not be the case once we have those discussions, but as of right now, their bylaws read that it happens in the presidential years.
Okay, great.
Awesome. And it's a lot of fun serving on the executive committee, I will say. So,
how would you know, Amy? Amy and I have both served on executive committees. So Amy, you're still on the executive committee.
Yes, I'm on the executive committee in Boone County. Yes.
Yep,
That's awesome.
right.
Well, thank you guys for serving on the county committee. So
It's a lot of fun.
yeah.
It really is. It's great being part of the process and really being able to make a difference. And especially if you have concerns or ideas about what the Democratic Party is doing, what your county party is doing, what they're not doing, what you think needs to be done better. There's no better way to really be part of that change than to be part of your county party and
Agree 100%.
Yeah, make the change. You can make a difference. You really can. So, well, thank you, Mary. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much, Mary.
Yeah, thank you all. So again, if anybody has questions, go to our website, kydemocrats.org. We do have several information sessions that are coming up. The next one, I believe, is on March 20th. So if you want to do a deeper dive or to be able to ask questions to me or to any of our other members on the team, then you can do that on the 20th. We have a couple of others out there as well. And or you can also send us an email at reorg@kydemocrats.org. And that goes to a team of people who are manning that inbox who can help answer the question that you may have. But I just want to say thank you, Roberto and Amy, so much for having me on. I am always happy to spread the word and to get more people involved. So thank you.
That's going to wrap it up for this week on Left in Kentucky. Big thank you once again to Mary for joining us and telling us all about the Kentucky Democratic Party reorg.
Yes, that was very informative. Mary was great.
Yeah. Make sure you go out there and participate. Remember, if you want to change your registration to Democrat, you have till April 8th to do that. The nominations and signing up to vote in your precinct conventions is now open.
Yep.
And we'll have all those websites again, all those links available in the information, or you can just go to the Kentucky Democratic Party website and they have the links on there for you.
Yes. And hey, guys, if you've got any good ideas about people you want to here on the program, different organizations you might think that are not getting enough attention, let us know.
Yeah, definitely. We're always looking for suggestions. And coming up next week, very excited, we will have representatives from Planned Parenthood on the show to talk about what Planned Parenthood is working on in the state of Kentucky. And as always, how you can support those and get involved. So make sure you tell your friends, tell your neighbors, have a listening party.
Yeah. Milkshakes and
there you go. Spread the word. And we'll have a very special April Fool's edition coming up for April. Okay, so
no spoilers.
No spoilers. We might have a few more teasers next time for that. But until then, this is Roberto Henriquez
and Amy Ferguson. See you next time. Or hear ya. Yeah, hear ya.
Left in Kentucky, the podcast of Indivisible Northern Kentucky.